This is the Chair's Breakfast, and we are being recorded by MMN, so please identify yourself and speak into the mic. Make sure your mics are on so that we can get picked up. I think I'm going to keep it going around to the left to the right, so you'll begin.
Hi, I'm Gordon Brockway. I'm chair of the Municipal Light Plant Board. We don't really have too much new stuff to tell you about this time around. We did miss the February meeting, but we met again in March. We're making really good progress in greening the power supply, and I think that we have a good chance of covering most of the energy that we bought last year with a purchase of RECs this year that'll cover last year. It'll get us to a pretty high percentage, and going forward, at least 50% or higher is certainly what we have. Looking forward to 2019 and 2020, we're working on a smart meter rollout and offering a new kind of rate structure called time of use. We're still in the process of sorting that out. More to come.
And will you have any vacancies on the committee for the coming year?
We have one vacancy.
Okay, we want to make sure that we fill up the committees as quickly as possible, because it's oftentimes right after town meeting there gets to be a lull in activity because we're trying to fill in and people have sent the term. So certainly let Andrew know if there are vacancies, and search out if you hear people who are interested in serving in any way for whatever committee. Tell them to be in touch with Andrew, or they can go online in order to sign up and volunteer, because that's critically important. So.
Nick Pappas from the Climate Action Advisory Board. On the sort of the big picture, we're going to be starting at our next meeting, excuse me, to look at buildings and their major contribution to greenhouse gases and what opportunities we may have to do anything about it, which we're kind of constrained by things like the state building code, which we can't just unilaterally override. So that's just beginning, and hopefully the prospect of new town buildings that might be in construction over the next 10 or 20 years gives us an opportunity to set an example, and we'll be looking at that. The other thing is that the Climate Action Board has been dealing with, for our first time, whether or not we should take a position on an article in the town warrant, which is the high school parking and driveway paving article, and we will be discussing that. We've had good discussions with Dr. Hunter and the school committee regarding possible ways of dealing with it. So we're optimistic that we will come to a good conclusion on that next week when we meet.
And I will say that we do hope to have somebody from your committee on the middle school building committee. And we are looking for people. We're going to be compiling that committee. So, the committees are only as good as the people who are on them, and so we hope to have a good group. Gary, you had a...
Yeah, I had a question. Nick, you said you're looking into buildings and building energy, and I heard through a complicated grapevine that at the select board meeting on Monday, Marcia Rasmussen, Director of Planning, indicated that maybe the planning department has a consultant looking at building energy. Is that right? Or do you remember something about
I
that?
tell you, that was a 3.5-hour meeting, and the last half hour, Chris Whalen couldn't be there because he got vertigo, and I must say I was starting to get it.
Well,
I'll double check, but
as the planning representative, I should be on top of it, but I just wanted to mention, I heard something about maybe there's a
Yeah,
consultant.
I'm with Tom. I was there, and I was sort of fuzzed out at that point.
Okay.
She may have said
But
something.
we should check in with Marcia,
Yes,
because
I
maybe
will.
there's some help.
I have a meeting with her on another topic next week, and I'll
Great.
ask her.
yeah.
Nick, I have a question. Is your committee strongly recommending that new buildings, new municipal buildings, be designed to exceed all of the current?
That's what we'd like to do.
Well,
But, I mean, but it's a complicated space, and what we can recommend and the cost of it. It's like your own issues in the finance committee about affordability, not affordability, but sustainability from an economic standpoint. So I think it's very complicated, and that's what we have to wrestle with, is how far can you go without bankrupting yourself.
Right, but given that it's a lot easier and cheaper to design and build initially to the highest energy
Right.
efficiency standards than it is to retrofit, and also given that there seems to be on the horizon a movement to have all buildings in the United States, including municipal buildings, be brought up to maximal efficiency, it seems like.
Right, yes, I agree with you. That's our goal, is as much as possible because of the operational benefits down the road.
The path may require getting the state to make adjustments so that the local,
Well, I don't think so. If we decide we want to hold ourselves for our own construction to a standard, I should think we could do that. But,
but the governor does have that 1% on the transfer
Right.
tax to do, so there may be some funding.
to help us,
Yes.
yes.
Hi, Mav Pardee from the Library Committee. The library is having its second public forum today on the expansion plans, and I want to assure you that we've taken LEED standards and efficiency into the design. But that meeting is today from 10 to 11 in the periodical room at the library, if anybody can make it. We had a first public forum last week. It was well attended, good questions. A lot of interest in this project at the library, and there have been letters, I'm sure you've seen them in the Concord Journal, and we will be bringing a couple of requests to the town meeting. The art jury is meeting. I don't know how many of you go to the gallery upstairs, but it's local artists basically can submit their work, and there's an art jury who decides and lays out a plan of exhibits during the year. So that's happening Thursday night. We launched the Library of Things, which is a bunch of mainly tech items, I have to say, although we have a microscope and a telescope and some other things. It's very popular already. It just opened on March 7th, and people are really enthusiastic about it. Next week is Foods for Fines, so if any of you have outstanding fines on your borrowing, you can bring food in that will go to Open Table, and that's always a very successful thing as well. I think another program at the library that we're very happy with is that we have a partnership with Minuteman ARC, in which the library has selected books with appropriate reading levels, large print, and so on, and that's also just started, and it's working out really, really well. So we're very pleased with that partnership. And then, as I mentioned, we have a couple of items coming up at town meeting, and we will be turning people out, and we are enthusiastic about the possibilities there. Thanks.
But also, I think, mention the Fowler librarian who was on the Newbury panel.
Oh, that's
That was
true.
quite an accomplishment and achievement.
Right, we do have, the new library, and I'm gonna rope for her name, head librarian over in the Fowler branch is Stephanie Rivera, and she gave us detailed descriptions about being on the Newbery Award Committee, which selects a children's book every year. One of the books that was published in 2018, that's what they were looking at, was, and just how complex that process is and what they go through in order to arrive at a selection. And it was a big honor for a small library like Concord to have somebody, because they only have about 15 people nationwide who are selected. But the other thing that we liked was that the book that was selected was published by Candlewick, and Anne Urza Leggett, who's the chair of the Friends, works at Candlewick. Now, there was no, that was just a nice coincidence, so that was really interesting.
Yeah. She had to read something like 70 books, she said. So it is not just an honor, it's also quite a lot of work. But, Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry Ackerman, Community Preservation Committee. We were all set with Article 22 for the warrant and the town meeting. We think it's going to come up probably Tuesday night. And we have $1.8 million, 12 different items in community housing, historic preservation, open space, and recreation. We also have 1 or 2 openings coming up, maybe even 3. So I will send an email to Andrew, and
that's a great committee, because you really get all the projects that are coming in to review, and you also have some money, which is always
right,
nice.
it's been a very fun committee, very great team we've had.
Yeah. Fire away.
Peter Hunter, Chair of the Recreation Commission. We were supposed to have a meeting last night. We didn't have a quorum, so we're going to have our next meeting late April, TBD. But there are a number of things going on through the department and with the commission. A couple of updates. There was a White Pond open forum on March 14th. I was out of town, didn't attend, but I heard it was a lively,
Over 100 people, I heard.
right, 2.5 hour discussion, a lot of good questions. The plan is for the department and the town to respond to all the questions that were asked thoroughly. If anybody wants to see what was the discussion, it's online on the website, on the town website. But no real major controversial issues, but good questions, mostly from pre-existing members. The good news is that we have 516 household passes sold to date, which is good, much exceeds our expectation. So obviously it's considered a good opportunity for recreation. Other topic, the Jerome Park, we just received some preliminary designs and ideas and estimates for costs for things that we're thinking about doing at Jerome Park. Plan is town staff's working out to come up with bids to see, get an idea of what this, the different costs will be and how you phase it in, because it could be a substantial cost depending on what we want to do with it. The visitor center is opening up on Friday, April 12th. Includes the Minuteman Bike Shares launch celebration. I've mentioned that in the past. We have a bike share capability right at the visitor center with bikes and bike racks there. That starts at 12 noon. Pretty excited about all the activities that we're planning in the visitor center. We have a job offer for a director of the visitor center. Hopefully we'll promote a lot of great activities and tourists into the town. So that is underway. As far as events coming up in the next few weeks, had another successful Shamrock Ball. They always sell out immediately. There's the ever popular egg hunt on April 19th. That's Friday. That's Good Friday. From 5:15 to 6:15. They will be laying out 20,000 eggs. That's a lot of eggs per person.
A lot of chickens.
What's that?
A lot of chickens.
Can adults participate?
I'm sure they can. Although this says ages 2 to grades 3, but go for it. And lastly, that's going to be held at between the Beatty Center and the high school, and we always encourage people to go check out the Beatty Center. With that in mind, we do have an open house at the Beatty Center on Wednesday, March 27th from 8 a.m. to 4. Basically, people could use the facility. They're going to be free classes, all to encourage the citizens to check out a pretty amazing facility that we have. And hopefully people will start consider joining. Other than that, a lot of activities listed in this. It's all online. And lastly, we do have one opening for the commission. Get your green card to encourage others to.
Peter, how does the 516 family permits you've issued so far compare with what they've done historically?
That's a good question. I don't have the numbers, Tom, but I believe it's in excess of what the pre-existing membership was.
And do you have a limit that you're going to?
There is a limit, yes. I don't have that, no,
Okay.
but I can get that information.
And also, I think the finance committee had the enterprise zone hearing, and the BD Center presented at that, and their numbers have turned around very nicely, so.
Yes, yeah, thanks.
Congratulations on that, because I didn't know that was a goal.
It is a goal, and we still have even better goals, but yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's been a lot of work and a lot of tough decisions.
But it's working. Everybody I hear thinks it's been a big improvement in terms of how it's operating. So.
Yeah, no, I think, Andy has done a great job. He's 6 months into the job. He's there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually go there either early morning or late night. He's there both ends. So he's a hard worker, and he's really trying to encourage, people to use the personal training, which is, I think, a real asset to the BD Center.
Yes.
What are the times of the egg hunts?
Sure. It's 5:50 for the ages 2. It starts at 5:15. Age 3, 5:30. Age 4, 5:40. I think they're trying to save these 20,000 eggs and not get
Like
them
a
all.
fair competition.
Age 4 is 5:45. Grades kindergarten to 1 is 6, and grades 2 to 3 is 6:15.
If you would come forward, maybe if we move the mic forward and whoever wants. Thank you. Morning.
I'm Jim Burns, Concord Housing Development Corporation, so I have 3 topics.
Great.
The first of which is Junction Village status, and that is the Grantham Corporation submitted an application for a grant, as they did last year, but were unsuccessful. It's not too surprising. Of the 90 applicants last year, only 19 awards were given. Based on what people know, and I'm not one of them, this is typical that the first application doesn't work. So there's quite a bit of hope that this, in fact, will be effective. We're looking forward to that. The second topic is rather kind of sad and good, both at the same time. Kind of doesn't make sense. In this last summer, a longtime resident of Concord made a property available for sale at a reduced rate for affordable housing. And it was in West Concord on Main Street. I won't say any more about the person. However, eventually that information got to Elizabeth Rust, who's at the Regional Housing Services Office, and we had also had contacts during that time looking for ways to try and do some, obtain properties, et cetera, because we're somewhat cash stressed. And that was the Habitat for Humanity. By maybe in October or November, it became clear that things could be done, perhaps by having a collaboration between CHDC, Habitat for Humanity, the Concord Housing Foundation, and some monies that were set aside some time ago that could be used for various activities. And indeed, quite a bit of work went on in January, by forming this collaboration. Most of the contacts between the person who was offering the property and the collaboration went through Liz. And one of the big problems was it's very difficult to reach the person. She no longer lives in town, lives somewhere out around Fitchburg. The property was rented. We had views, we had people running through, and everything looked great. It was quite possible that we could even take a 1-unit family and turn it into 2 units. This really looked good. And when I realized I had to come here this time, I was thinking a week and a half ago I'd have a real good story. But unfortunately, it didn't work out because not quite a week, a little over a week ago, we found out that a letter was written by the owner who said she wasn't interested. And Liz has been trying to reach the owner to understand, can we maybe raise the amount of money she We had offered, I think she was willing to sell the property originally for $350,000. We were willing to pay in the order of $380,000. And perhaps it was, we needed a little bit more money, she would buy, but the last I heard, which was yesterday, there still has been no contact from the owner. When I looked at the letter that the owner wrote to Liz, it looked to me as if it was written by someone, a lawyer or someone, because of the terminology didn't seem normal for the kind of letter she was writing. But we really don't know what happened. I think the good news, however, was the collaboration that was formed quickly by both Liz and Lee Smith really was quite encouraging, because it means that we can move. I think we have established the principle that we can move forward very nicely. I regret to say we were not going to be able to get that property, apparently. If the woman answers, perhaps we can do it, but I think the probability is less than 50%. But it was an opportunity. We moved on it. Things happened. So the last thing I'd like to comment about is, at our meeting last week, the board took positions on the relevant warrant articles. And I want to make sure that I get this right. So Articles 23 and 24, we voted yes and unanimously. That's not surprising, because we've been asking for money for a long time. So we're not.
23 is the $500,000 from free cash.
Right.
And
And the other one
24 is the
a
fund.
reservoir where the money will be placed and can be drawn upon with an organization that keeps their eyes open so everything works out. Article 25, which was the land transfer tax, we voted unanimously not to support it. And it's a little awkward to do that, because we appreciate the effort that was put in by the people who came up with these articles, with these ideas. And as I said, we're the ones who asked for money. Nevertheless, we're saying, well, we don't like that. And the reason is, I'm going to read this. The CHDC wondered why commercial properties were not considered. And then there were discussions on whether this particular article placed an unfair burden on new households, and perhaps did not further acceptance of affordable housing sentiments. In other words, we were concerned that it maybe was distasteful. That would be my phrase. But we really appreciate the work that people did, but we're just not comfortable. The final article had to do with a building surcharge and that Article 26. There we voted yes, but by 4-2. And the objection by 2 members was that there was some ambiguity in the way the article was written, and there'll have to be some work to clear that up. It could get maybe a little complicated, maybe we're not sure. And so 2 people chose not to vote yes, although the board as a whole voted yes. And finally, Article 27, which is road land, we voted unanimously yes. So.
Well, thank you, and I think it does, certainly your first explanation about the Main Street property does indicate why it's so important that we do have the funding so we can act more quickly on it. And I will say that as far as the warrant articles, that was earlier in the evening, and I do have a pretty good recollection of what the select board did on those articles. I took the select board voted in favor of all of them, but Article 25, it was a 4-1 in favor, and I was the one who was not in favor, taking somewhat the same position that you all were describing. So, thank you.
And I would like to speak to that. So I'm Todd Benjamin from the Affordable Housing Funding Committee. Our committee was charged with the select board to come up with strategies to fund affordable homes. And Article 25, when we recommended that to the select board, it did have commercial real estate included in that. So our intention was that commercial real estate would be included in that. And when the article was drafted, that was left out. Our recommendation also contemplated that there would be an exemption in that article for first-time homeowners or what have you, and that wasn't included. Some of that is something that perhaps could be addressed on the floor. So we'll see how that evolves, or by an amendment is what I'm referring to. So, but that was the intention of the article. We share that kind of intention to be more inclusive in that. So we were disappointed that it didn't include that as well.
Jerry?
Yeah, Todd, do you know if they will allow that amendment within the so-called four corners?
In having conversations with the town moderator, it appears that an amendment for an exclusion, for an exemption would be possible. An amendment to include commercial real estate most likely would not be possible. So that's where it seems to play out, is that one would be possible, the other one most likely would not be possible, because that would expand the scope of the article.
Right.
So.
I think the reason, as I understand, that it was not included is that when town council was talking with the state, because the state has to approve it as well, they had already a couple of proposals which were of a similar nature, but did not include commercial. So they felt that it would be better to be consistent with what the other towns had been proposing, be easier to get the state to act favorably on it. Because even after a vote of town meeting, this has to go and get approved by the state. It's a petition to have the state allow this to take place. So that was kind of the reasoning. If we, next, oh, I'm sorry. There you are, you're prompt getting on your seat.
Okay, Carrie Flood, representing the Minutemen Voc Tech. And there's not a lot new to report since I gave my presentation at the Finance Committee hearing. I will say that the building project continues apace. The one thing that might interfere with its opening date as of a week ago, and I have not heard an update, so I assume it's the same, is that they do not have a hard date yet from National Grid to bring the gas line in. There's still time, but that's an issue. And will
That was certainly
involve some
beyond
permitting
anybody's
along the way
control
too.
in
Right.
the project, so.
Right. The other thing related to the project that's worth mentioning is that there's an RFP out right now regarding investment in the fields, the playing fields, which will be built to a basic design or could be enhanced if we find somebody who would like to invest in exchange for favorable rights to use those fields. Though all member communities will have some right to get in line for use of the fields as well. The best news, I think, is, and I think reflects both the excitement about the new building and the restructured educational planning that will be possible in that building, is that the number of applications and the approved acceptances that have already gone out. If we had four class years that were the size of what we expect in September, the school would be full to its design standard. And those acceptances are going to member communities and what are known under the state regulations as type A communities, meaning communities that do not have a direct membership in another vocational region. Towns like Watertown. And the towns which left the district are now type A. Now, for the most part, they sent small numbers of students, but the number of applications we received from those communities is larger than what was typical when they were still members. So that's very interesting. And that's really all I have to report.
But on time and on budget, except for the gas hookup, which we keep hearing the issues of funding for the middle school and the escalation of costs. I think this is quite remarkable. It's certainly well planned, so
Well,
congratulations.
I think a lot of the credit goes to the company that was hired to manage the project, who entered into contracts for all of the critical materials early.
Yeah.
And so where there have been price escalations or it may have been influenced by tariff negotiations. That was sort of irrelevant to this particular project for that reason.
Was this the owner's project manager or the contractors?
Owner's project manager working together with the others, but they've done a remarkable job. What would normally have been a 3-year cycle of construction is now working to a 2-year cycle. They started basically at two ends, working towards the middle to reduce the total elapsed time, and one trade after another. Most days there are over 100 people working at the site. And
It's a remarkable building.
really
The select
coming
board has
together
had the
nicely.
opportunity to visit and to go through it during the construction phase, and it's pretty impressive. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've done a great job through how many years?
It will have been 8.
Yes.
Now, do you have anybody who has signed up?
I think that people are intimidated by that, but,
It will
we're-
be an easier next few
Yes.
years than it has been. And I think the most interesting part going forward will be some reorganization of the administration to fit the new challenges going ahead.
We're very grateful, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes? You,
I got nothing to say.
Okay, perfect, okay, not perfect, but it does speed it along, so, right?
Okay. Good morning. Ray Considine, Board of Health. We had a fairly light agenda at our meeting, although the meeting seemed to stretch out for 2 hours, and we managed to fill it though. The first thing we did was to grant a variance for a soil absorption system or a leach field for a resident because of the property line and the wetlands, and they need to put that in closer than the 75-foot setback that Concord requires. The most of the time we spent though talking with assistant school principal Brian Miller and middle school principal Tyler Sheffe as part of our ongoing efforts to look at vaping in Concord. So this part of the meeting probably stretched out over 90 minutes. And it's part of our partnership with the schools to figure out how we can tackle this issue, among other health issues within the schools, but principally vaping. 24% of high school seniors reported vaping in the past 30 days, which is a pretty significant number. The good news is that the use of tobacco and alcohol is dropped among high school students, but vaping, and I think we're all very familiar with that, has sort of taken on epidemic proportions. So we looked at a number of things with the schools. Part of it is on educating students, particularly in the middle school, before they start getting into sort of the very negative peer pressures and begin some of these negative behaviors. Also working with helping to change the curriculum, the health curriculum in the middle schools. Doing some student and parent education programs at the high school level. We have now I think about a 3/4 time public health nurse that we can, her time can be used in working with school personnel. We're in the process of writing a grant to the State Department of Public Health for under the sort of the drug substance use category to help bring resources in to pay for some of this. And then we're also looking at, believe it or not, some vaping cessation programs. There are tobacco cessation programs, the patch and other things like that, but they're beginning to develop a vaping cessation program for people who are addicted to vaping. So those are some of the activities, and I think the board's contemplating some other, maybe a regulatory approach sometime in the future. So that's.
The figures you use are based upon a study by Emerson Hospital that they cooperate with?
Yes, it's called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. It's done every 2 years, and Emerson graciously supports that as part of their community benefits. And it's a survey of middle school and high school students across a wide range of questions. things like stress. Stress is actually a really
Bullying, all of that.
significant factor here in Concord, but certainly substance use and other behaviors.
No, I think the coordination working with Emerson Hospital is a terrific step because
Yes.
they are an asset to the town that we don't always take advantage of as fully as we could. So.
Right. They're going to be sponsoring a forum on the 28th on CBD, oil, and marijuana, which is a public forum, and I believe it's on our website.
Great. Thank you so much.
Tom?
Ray, when one refers to vaping, is there any supposition as to what substances are being, what substances does vaping serve as a vehicle for?
Well, ostensibly nicotine.
Nicotine.
So in liquid form, there are packets that can be put into the, it's actually an e-cigarette, electronic cigarette is the device. Vaping is the process of putting it into an aerosol type of composition. And so it's taken on, the term vaping is really the use of e-cigarettes. Another term would be juuling, which is a product, which is a type of e-cigarette, but it's captured really a significant part of the market. They've seen a significant growth over just about a 3-year period.
They advertise that as a health way to get off of tobacco,
Right.
cigarettes.
So the argument about it's a harm reduction approach, ostensibly a harm reduction approach. So it helps people, adults who are smoking combustible tobacco products, to get off those products into something that is somewhat safer, to be truthful. However, it's hard to see it as a harm reduction when you might save 100 adults from smoking cigarettes and then addicting 1,000 kids, which is what, don't quote me on the numbers because that's just for example, but that's what's happening with e-cigarettes and the vaping. But to answer your question, there are different flavors which appeal to kids particularly, and marijuana. So there's the liquid form of marijuana that's used in the vaping devices as well. It's very hard to tell, other than the flavored products like menthol and mint and bubblegum, and there are a whole host of different flavors that you can vape. But most of it, if it's just nicotine or marijuana, it's very difficult to smell because it's given off in a vapor type of element. Okay.
Thank you. Gary.
Gary Kleinman, Chair of the Planning Board. So we've actually, because of some snow in February and a canceled meeting then, we've had 3 meetings in the last couple of weeks. Our public hearing where I think we have 7 or 8 warrant articles this year. Articles 29 through 37 are all being moved by the planning board, but all but 3 will be on the consent calendar. So we had our public hearing, and I think, certainly the formula business bylaw will be on the floor of town meeting. Article 30 looks at an expansion of the wireless overlay district near 1440 Lowell Road, the Middlesex School. And another warrant article will look at removing the requirement for the town to hold fairs and bazaars without obtaining a special permit first. The other thing that we've been doing over the past 2 or 3 weeks at our meetings is really digging in very deep, coming from the Envision Concord Long Range Plan, digging in on big idea number 2, looking at housing and village centers and preservation of open space in the surrounding regions. And we are deep into the process now of putting together a menu of options. This is not a step towards deciding what we will pursue, but rather an open look at what are the options to consider. We expect that right after town meeting, we've been hearing from the Affordable Housing Finance Committee, from CHDC through Barbara Morse as a representative of the Long Range Plan, the Affordable Housing Initiative of the state, a lot of different housing advocates and resources to understand what the options are. And our plan is right after town meeting to dig in and start thinking more deeply about what makes sense for Concord of these options to move forward for a slate of potential warrant articles for next year. The other thing that I would mention, and so the ideas span things like allowing accessory dwellings, housing with smaller physical and carbon footprints within half-mile of the transport centers in town, looking at ways to incentivize 2 to 5 family units in mixed use or combined business residence configurations. There are 40R and transport-oriented development opportunities through the state that we can look at, and preservation of open space through cluster housing and reconfiguring how our PRD works in outer regions of the town, outlying regions of the town. So all of those things will be on a list that we'll look at, and we'll have to have some deliberation around what makes sense. But the other thing that has come back to our agenda is the 1440 Main Street PRD application. The applicant has submitted, last night, submitted a new concept plan. Continuing to refine based on what the applicant has heard from the planning board and from the community. There continues to be strong interest in that application. So we don't know, we gave a lot of feedback last night. We'll see whether the applicant wants to move forward with a full application based on that concept, but that will continue. And I would say I believe we will have at least one, probably 2 openings in May. I mean, there are 2 people leaving the board in May, at the end of May, including myself. So we will need at least one, but I think 2 spots. Somebody, I think maybe has submitted a green card, but we would need 2 members. And then I also would make a pitch for the West Concord Advisory Committee, a subcommittee of the planning board. I think that with the green card that was just submitted, they will have a full membership, but they have 2 associate members that right now are vacant. So if anybody has interest in the West Concord Advisory Committee or the planning board, get your green card in.
Great, thank you. Sure. Any questions or comments on that? Nope. Okay. Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Rockwell from the 2229 Main Street Oversight Committee, and it's actually been a while since I've been to one of these meetings, but we don't really work on the monthly sort of cycle. So the reason that I'm here right now is because last year at town meeting, we voted to take the property at 2229 Main Street, and things have been progressing there. They're waiting for a signature from the Justice Department on a consent decree, which will allow them to start designing the final remediation for the site and begin actually trucking out soil and doing the work. And when they get that signature, there's probably about an 18-month window for us to have some input into what the redesign is going to look like when they do the remediation. So things like, gee, if they need soil to fill this, can they take it from this hillside and create a new level space? Can they create access points? Where might they pave to do their work that we might later use as roadways in this development and things like that? It's about 46 acres. There's probably about 25 buildable acres in this site. And so the town has, I don't know if you've talked about this, but the town has actually designated a new committee to work on the reuse for this site, the Nuclear Metals StarMet Reuse Planning Committee. They're going to be needing to staff up, and some of that they need land use planners, they need people who have experience with affordable housing. They want someone from the West Concord Advisory Committee and some other citizens, but basically we have potentially as small as an 18-month window. The new committee will have to hold a public hearing and have a bunch of people basically give ideas. And then they will work with the town staff to flesh out those ideas, maybe have another public hearing and discuss it, and potentially a town meeting next year, we might be discussing what we're going to do with this site. We might have a couple of options on the menu to say yes or no to. So the big point I'm making today is If you have something you want to do with this site, right after town meeting is the time to get your ideas together and start making noise about it, because this is a beautiful site for a new town center, for transportation, for recreation buildings, for town buildings, for parking dump trucks, for affordable housing, for solar power generation, just about any need that we have that involves land or buildings in Concord, you could put at this site. There's a lot of nice space. It's very accessible to the Thoreau Hills community. It's very close to the Stop and Shop in Acton and that area. It's close to the Thoreau Club. It's close to Minutemen Arc, where many disabled adults have services, having other services, having extensions of the kinds of things we do at Harvey Wheeler. There's a lot available here. And the reality is this committee is probably going to come up with 2 or 3 options that we vote yes or no on. And we really want to, if you want your idea represented, something that your committee needs or something that your department needs, now is the time to say, hey, look at me. This is what we need. And use your imagination. There's a lot of space here. When else would we find 25 acres to build on in Concord like this?
You're also somebody who's been working on this project for a while. Are you
Yes,
longer? I think you probably are.
I think she wins.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. But yes, it's been a while, and actually my committee, several people are kind of aging out too. So if you're interested, we're looking at 2 or 3 vacancies in the spring. So.
Well, and thank you for your efforts in this, because it does require somebody to keep after it. And as you said, it's a different type of committee, because we have to respond to federal actions a lot of times, or inaction.
And it's kind of seasonal. There's a lot of activity, and then there's a long wait, and there's a lot of activity, and there's a long wait.
I'm sorry. I had a question and then wanted to reinforce one point. But the question is, my understanding from maybe 9 months ago was that the 2229 committee was actually developing a list of options or available uses for the site at that time. Did you not already sort of go through this exercise?
We have not already gone through this exercise. So this is something where we're talking about, I'm not talking about, recreation would be a nice use for this site. I'm talking about the recreation department saying, gee, I'd like to put this kind of building with this kind of facilities in it at this site. So that's the level that we're working at right now, and that's not something, my committee is really full of scientists and environmental engineers. We need real people who have built buildings and doing something. We're working hard to keep the water safe and things like that, but we do not have the kind of expertise to be able to say, you need this much space for a roadway, and you need this kind of rear access from this, or that, this much space for a septic system, or the grade is wrong here for this kind of building. That's the sort of thing that we need and we need people to really use their imaginations and say, this is what I want to do. I've wanted to do this for a long time for my town, and we've never had the place to do it. So we have a place to do it. We have a cool opportunity to build up from the beginning and to have some input as to how it's put together. And what they do to remediate the site can make a difference as to how easy it is to put what we plan on top of it. So.
And the second point I was going to make was to reinforce the time-sensitive nature of this. Back in July, when we presented the Envision Concord Long-Range Plan to the Board of Selectmen, we gave you a list of 10 items that fell squarely within the Select Board's portfolio. And we said at the time, not necessarily the highest priority, but the most time-sensitive of that list of 10 was to have a plan, a concrete plan for 2229 Main Street. Because this is a window that if we lose it, we lose it. The federal government is putting significant resources into remediating this property now, and if we don't get it remediated to fit a plan, we lose that opportunity.
Thank you. Yes.
Carmen Jacquier, White Pond Committee. It was good having that meeting. It's going to cut down a lot of emails I've been getting for about a year of this or that and not being able to tell them. We are still waiting to meet with the select board. We sent our list of recommendations earlier this year. We were hoping for a live meeting that we could go back and forth and expand on the points. And some of the stuff was covered in the meeting. Some people are upset about it. My feeling is that the first year is going to be a shakeout period. And we're not really going to push on anything. We have our recommendations in, and we've seen what works. But the town will find out, how it goes. So we were glad for that meeting, though.
Great. Thank you.
Happy Gother from the Agriculture Committee. We spent the winter attending state and local meetings for farmers, organic meetings and so forth. And tomorrow is our spring forum, which there's a poster here and around town. It's going to be on Concord seasonal food. How do you eat it? How do you save it? And we're having 4 chefs from different establishments in town speak on the panel, as well as public comment. The summer will be an extension of our passport program, which we did last fall, and it'll run through the summer, giving more activities. And our Ag Day has been set for September 14th. Also, we were introduced to the Articles 23 through 27 at our meeting last week, and the comment that we had was it seems to emphasize town employees as recipients of the units more than anything else. We would like to include farmer housing. This has been a point from the open space plan to almost every meeting that we have. There are young farmers who would love to come into Concord, but they have no place to live. So we would like to emphasize that and perhaps get that included. And I believe that's it. Hope to see some of you there tomorrow night at 7 at the Hardy Hugo.
Gary, do you have a?
Just point out that on the planning board menu of options for housing, we have included ag worker housing as one of the options we're considering.
Hopefully the spring weather will be, we can all get our gardens in a little earlier. Please, next.
Actually, I just have a quick question. I just have a quick question. I just wanted to, you were talking about Articles 23 through 27, and you felt that it didn't represent agricultural workers? Okay, all right, thanks for that feedback. I mean, that's not the intention. The intention is to appeal to everybody, so thanks for that.
I'll just go real quick. Peter Nobley, Historic Districts Commission. Not much to update. We've got the library expansion project coming up this Thursday, which will be an exciting meeting if people would like to attend. We continue to work on historic neighborhood conservation districts, which is a sort of different kind of historic district, and I think Gary will be talking to the planning board. And thank you again, by the way, for planning board appointed our 10th seat, so we have a full seat of the commission members now. We continue to update standards on signage and street furniture, and we're looking at energy efficiency improvements, including photovoltaics and heat pumps and high performance windows and how those work in historic districts. And then we're doing some general outreach. We were going to do a historic architecture themed egg hunt, but they stole our thunder. So that's really it for now. Any
question?
Yes.
Any progress on the remediation of the as-built at the Concord Museum?
As-built, yeah, that's coming up at the next meeting. There is a remediation letter, or I don't know if you are familiar with what.
No, not the details.
Happened. So there was a
I drive
violation.
by all the time.
So we sent a violation letter. There were several things that were done that we did not approve, and there is a discussion going on with the museum, and they're being terrific. I have to say, they're very collaborative. So that you'll see more about that in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. Bob.
Robert Blom from the school committees. I'm happy to report that both school budgets are meeting the FinCom guidelines. And so our main focus has been on Article 14 and Article 16. Article 14 concerns the new Concord Middle School feasibility and schematic design study. Article 16 concerns the high school capital projects. And we've had many info sessions, forums, and tours for the middle school project, most of which have been recorded, so you can go to YouTube and tune in if you wish. I would highlight, though, the tours, because we have them every Saturday now until town meeting, and it gives you a real good opportunity to see the two buildings, in person. But also, you're going to spend at least an hour on these tours, and there's plenty of chances to ask questions, and there are typically two school committee members there who can pretty much answer all the questions. If not, we'll get back to you. Article 16.
Just let me interrupt you.
Yeah, sure.
It's 9:30 Saturday morning at Sanborn, and 11 o'clock Saturday morning
Yeah.
at Peabody.
Yeah, I was going to
I would advise everybody who's interested in this to take the tour, because as you said, it's a good opportunity to kind of get the interaction, and oftentimes there are parents of kids who are coming who have a perspective and have interesting questions.
Yeah.
So
we've had both, some senior citizens and obviously many families who have participated. So that's a real good thing. We also have a public forum on March 25 on the middle school project, and so I encourage everyone. And you can always email the school committee, and we'll clearly get back to you. On Article 16, I just want to emphasize the numbers contained in that article, which is about $2 million. They're very rough estimates. We expect the numbers to come in lower, but it's something that we can't promise. We're not sure until we do get some bids. And but they were priced as separate projects, so clearly if the two are done together, there'll be some economies of scale. And the main issue there is that we basically have 135 fewer spaces than we had under the old configuration. So that's causing, stress, and not only concerning students and teachers, but also there's a lot of special meetings during the day. I was at a middle school meeting there, as a matter of fact, and it was difficult to find visitor parking, which is very limited. And we have, the principal has coffees in the morning, and the PTA meets there in the morning, et cetera, et cetera. So it's something that needs to be addressed. And highlighting what Nick had mentioned concerning the whole sustainability issue in town, we will have Kate Hanley at our next meeting, and we expect a lively discussion concerning sustainability and how the town and the schools could work together to bring that whole issue forward.
Questions or comments? Well, so we had a lively discussion Monday night, and on a particular article, we voted in favor of Article 14, and in Article 16, we asked the school members to come back, having conferred with the town public works in terms of the cost of the road, which some of us felt seemed to be a little excessive. So we'll be following up on that. But thank you so much. And there has been an enormous amount of work done by yourself and fellow members.
It's really a huge project. Yeah. We all realize that.
And had very severe implications for an awful lot else that may go on in the town. So.
Absolutely.
Do you have yet any good data from the high school where you've got a lot of new technology to reduce energy costs, data that you could use in the new middle school project?
That's clearly an aspect that's going to be a real plus.
Yeah.
In terms of building a new building, because
Right.
it's clearly the carbon footprint will be reduced substantially from 2 buildings to 1, and the new building is going to be very efficient. So I've heard, as far as the high school is concerned, something in the order of a third less, which I think stands to reason. But it's not a hard number, and
Right, but you'll be able to get some data on which of the new technologies are really working well and which need to be tweaked more and that kind of thing?
so this really gets us into a discussion that was had at the select board meeting Monday night concerning the middle school building committee.
Right.
Which is going to be a total town effort set up by the select board. And that committee will go into all those details, because this article is really only about the study.
Right.
And $1.5 million, so that's not going to get us into,
No.
you know, detailed design and energy efficiency aspects of the building. So.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Now you go. Yes. Thank you. Good morning.
I am Julie Klein, representing Janet Miller, Chair of the Comprehensive Sustainability and Energy Committee. Just to let you guys know about a couple of events that we're mainly focusing on at the moment. We have a Sustainable Landscaping Fair on May 18th at Willard School. We're very busy with that. We are inviting lots of local organizations that are relevant to sustainable landscaping, some here in town, some a little further afield. The event will be outdoors, and there'll be a lot of tables, there'll be some food and kids' activities, and the goal of the fair is to provide Concord residents with actionable information and inspiration to make their own landscapes sustainable. And in addition to that, we'll also have, so the fair runs from 10 till 2, and then I think it's 12 till 3, or 1 till 4. There'll be open gardens, and we've arranged with several homeowners in town who have sustainable landscapes gardens to be present, and people can pick up a map at the fair and then go visit these gardens and see sustainable landscaping up close, which is great. You know, really kind of, it's hoping to be inspirational. There'll be some giveaways and a raffle and things like that, and I think it's going to be very good because we all come out of this long winter and everyone will feel excited to get back out in the garden and hopefully make some good changes. You know, I think even people who are not driven by the green movement are being hit by having to ban water and all that sort of thing. So hopefully some people will get good ideas and make some changes. And then the other event we have is going to be early June. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but it's building on the Heat Smart event, which was all about encouraging and educating Concord residents about clean heating and cooling, heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, and we had a big program last year, and this is kind of just topping off that program. It's going to be called the Clean Heating and Cooling Expo, and we'll be using material from the Heat Smart program and also the Cooler Concord Fair, and talking, it'll probably be at one of the schools I expect, but not on graduation day. And we'll be talking about weatherization, heat pump water heaters, and just building on that Heat Smart program. And I forgot to mention also that the Sustainable Landscaping Fair is called the Cooler Concord Sustainable Landscaping Fair, again building on our 2017 big fair at the high school.
Can you say the date again?
It's May 18th, Saturday, May 18th at Willard, 10 till 2. We actually have a meeting later today. We've had a lot of interest. We've reached out to many organizations, and a lot of people are interested in coming and tabling at the event. So we're pretty excited. I think it's going to be quite sizable.
And the garden event?
So that's the same day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same day. So the idea is the visitors would come to the fair and visit all these tables, and then there'll also be a map there for about 4 or 5 gardens just in town that people can then leave the fair and go and visit these gardens, and there'll be someone there. There'll also probably be some printed information about what is happening in that garden and what steps that homeowner has taken to make their own landscape more sustainable.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Hi, I'm Sally Clutter, the chair of the Hugh Cargill Trust Committee. Very brief report. We had our fall appeal for the Hugh Cargill Trust and the tax relief program. I would like to say that there are many residents and businesses in Concord who are very generous, and we're very, very grateful for that. We wanted to follow up another appeal. One of our funds, Concord Cares, is an emergency fuel program. We govern that, but it also can be used by the police department and the town social services for people who are in immediate need. The fund was originally created in 2008 by some very generous donors, and it lasted quite a while. We did find, however, that the fund was somewhat depleted, so we decided, because it depends solely on donations, that we would send out another appeal. And so that's kind of ongoing. Not sure what the results of that will be. One of our other funds, the Silent Fund, we put in our annual appeal to the trustees for the amount that we need to provide the annual camperships, and we will be working with Bonnie Wilbur and the Community Chest to distribute those camperships in May. Basically, that's it.
Thank you so much. It's
Okay.
great work. Appreciate it.
I'm Whitney Coker-Nguyen from the Cemetery Committee. So, a couple updates that we have. We had a meeting here actually in the town hall, a special meeting about supply in Concord Town cemeteries with interested parties, just to see what available options would be for expanding our supply. And two results that came back were that people from that meeting were interested in a columbarium, which would be small niches where cremated remains would be stored, which the town would have to build and create a structure to store those, and also family mausoleums. So for a single family, a structure that would be privately funded and built. So we wanted to get more information on that based on that meeting and bring it to the town. In talking with the town moderator, we do not need to have an article in the town meeting for that. So what we're planning on doing is providing a survey for people who leave the town meeting to just provide us feedback if they have any other opinions on what they would like to see in the cemetery, if they have anything against any of those two options that we were thinking about. That's really what we're looking for, because all the feedback we heard at the meeting we hosted in November was fairly positive. So that's something we're looking for feedback on, and once we have that, we plan on moving ahead with those options.
Would you be utilizing the town website to also include the survey?
We can do that, yeah.
That
We've done a lot of extensive work on our website, so we can definitely post it on the cemetery committee website. The other things that we have going on is this fall we did a restoration project for the Melvin Memorial. It's a sculpture in the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery that was made by Daniel Chester French. So beautiful job, completely restored. It looks amazing. Just check it out. There's going to be a rededication ceremony on June 16th that we're going to have, and probably also followed by a reception in the town hall. So that's something to look forward to. We're actively planning that and trying to get invitations out to anyone who would be interested. We also have a few things coming up, which are repairing lots of different monuments within the town cemeteries. So we have a budget for that, which comes from the cemetery fund. We're working with an outside committee. It's called the Friends of Sleepy Hollow, to look at a tree naming project where we would post the names of different native Massachusetts species of trees inside the cemetery, and just make sure we have one of each. If we have a tree that's missing, we're looking to plant them because there are old trees that we have to take down as well. So we'd like to plant new trees in their place. After we're done with the Melvin Memorial rededication, we also want to look at other things that we can repair in the cemeteries, such as structures, potentially some of the walls, like along Bedford Street, where some of the bricks are falling out. We want to get estimates on how much that would be, and see what we would need in terms of funding to fix that. So that would be upcoming for the next year. And lastly, we have 2 vacancies coming up this spring, I think. So, and we just had 1 new member join because we had another vacancy before that. So that was it.
Very lively committee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ironically.
That really was a bad one. Carlin Reed, Chair of the PEG Access Advisory Committee, and I have 3 short updates. First is we're going to be doing our first ever PEG Access survey, looking for preferences on programming, what you want to see on Minuteman Media Network. Second, we've hired a new studio manager who will take up her position April 1st. And the third thing is that the PEG warrant article for $600,000 is on the consent calendar. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I saw an article this week about the FCC. Do you care to comment on that?
Sure, we already have, actually. The Select Board on December 11th, 2018 filed a reply comments with the FCC in the docket that is of the subject matter of that article. The article was saying PEG access fee structures may be changing based on a ruling that the FCC may or may not have come down in April. The Select Board graciously submitted reply comments saying that it's not a good idea, don't do it, and was joined by a number of other type of reply comments from other PEG access studios and access programs across the state.
And nonetheless, people are cutting the cord, so the potential for fees from Comcast and others is that they'll probably decrease over time. So we're also looking at new revenue streams or anything like that to fund?
Let me parse that out. You said probably. That's not a guarantee. There's always a possibility. Keep in mind, as the numbers go down, Comcast will increase its rates. So what you want to be looking at is the overall numbers of the revenues.
But that's why we're fleeing. I left last month.
I understand that. There has been a decrease in numbers, but the revenues are not declining nearly as much. Fortunately, we have a town department that is providing the Minuteman Media services, so we're not as reliant as some of the private nonprofit organizations who are relying on various grants and donations. We're in a stronger position at this point.
Okay, but my question really, and I wasn't clear about it, are we looking at developing revenue streams in the event that those other revenue streams from Comcast, for example, disappear
That's a
or
good question. We'll be
decrease?
taking that up at some point during the committee's meeting. I don't know if it'll be today, but perhaps next month or so.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
No, thank you. And I would just point out the reason the Select Board, or one of the reasons the Select Board sent the letter to the FCC was the prompting by the PEG committee, which was, very helpful to bring that to our attention. Then there was this period of time we needed to write the letter and to respond, and we'll see how much difference it makes.
Always helps. Thanks, Steve.
Anybody in the back row wanna? Yes, please, Mark.
Hello, my name is Christian Kruger, and I'm here on behalf of the Pollinator Health Advisory Committee. We have had a lot of fun over the course of the past few months, not getting locked out of our meetings anymore. We have so far looked at a lot of, or solicited a lot of input regarding the use of various pesticides in agriculture and in landscaping, and have come to the conclusion that we want to focus on informing the population of Concord about personal use of these substances, neonicotinoids, various other forms of pesticides. And one of the best ways to do this is by distributing literature at the town meeting. So we've got a lovely pamphlet here, if you'd like to pass this around. That was produced at the meeting last night.
Beautiful.
Thanks. Our chair, Sarah Grimwood, actually made it herself, and I personally complimented on her for her. Besides that, we are looking into ways to increase the amount of pollinator-friendly plants and trees and such. We're also considering, or we have reached out and are kind of sending out feelers in regards to perhaps working with the schools to create a pollinator-friendly garden that might serve a...
I was going to say, it sounds like this could fit into the May 18th Willard Sustainable.
Yeah, we've already spoken to Mark Hansen. He will be there, and
You're
oh,
working on the
absolutely.
same goals.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yes. And also making sure that we're being fair to all parties involved, because there are people who have, who are running businesses that currently require some of these things, and helping them find ways to transition, as well as helping to kind of keep them from losing business as we push them towards more and more pollinator-friendly products.
Great. Any questions or comments?
I believe that the representative from the Ag Committee stated that they are trying to put together an educational thing that could be put with these substances in stores, and also to educate the populace that there are other alternatives to these bad things.
I would say that's accurate. Because one of the reasons why our primary goals is education versus, say, going to various retail outlets and trying to give them like a seal of approval is both a logistical capacity one, we're a committee that meets once a month, and a matter of difficulty figuring out who exactly sells things. Trying to find a comprehensive list of landscapers, for example, has proven remarkably difficult. So going towards an education focus, we're attempting to make sure that the people who are soliciting these products and these services are checking to see if they're pollinator friendly before they use them or buy them, is how we're trying to do this task most completely.
I think that's where the May 18th project hopefully will spread the word, and the landscapers, it will get them more interested in more advertising for this type of thing. So
exactly.
Thank you so much. Anybody else there? Well, coming up, I just mentioned that.
I haven't gone.
Up.
I haven't gone yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, I'll get to you. I just wanted to mention there's a town-wide cleanup that starts between March 30 to April 7th. Focus on the business areas, the mill dams, the Rose Street, the depot area, West Concord, and sign up for an area, pick up yellow bags at the Natural Resource Department at Keyes Road between 8:30 and 4:30, Monday through Friday. So that's a town-wide, and hopefully the weather will be conducive to cleaning up. Was somebody in the back gonna? No, okay. Todd, did you fire away then?
Sure. Yeah, Todd Benjamin from the Affordable Housing Funding Committee. You've heard some of the work that we've been doing. Before anybody goes, I have a handout for everybody. This is something the committee devised or came up with as kind of a cheat sheet for the articles. So I'll pass this around. What we'd like to have done, or what we are asked, if you will, for these articles, and it's just a one-pager on both sides. I can just give you those to pass out. Just an overview of the articles and kind of some background of why. Oh, you got one already. See, the committee's been hard at work. Right. I'll give one over here. And Carlin, can I give you those and you can pass them up there? So we have 4 articles, Articles 23, 24, 25, 26, to help fund affordable homes in town. If you look at the article here, it just gives you a background of why I need it. I won't read the literature to you, but a couple of things to point out.
Just speak into the mic.
Sorry, I apologize. So a couple of things to point out. Of 277 town employees, 9% live in Concord. I think that's a kind of we were shocked at that number. That's kind of speaks to the reason why we need more affordable homes. There's an economic benefit for more affordable homes in town. And we heard earlier about CHDC, how there seems like there was an opportunity for a home that could have been converted into 2 units, but that opportunity looks like it's not there anymore. Hopefully it will come back. But one can't help but wonder, if we had funds available, would we be in this situation with this opportunity or not? And that's been really kind of the consistent issue with affordable homes in Concord. We've seen opportunities arise where the town could move in and acquire something, but we haven't had the funds readily available. So that's what we're trying to address here. The other thing I would point out quickly, a lot of people, when we talk about affordable homes, inevitably the conversation of 40B and the 10% come up. And I'm not here to talk whether 40B is good or bad, but I do want to point out a couple of things that some of you may be aware of. On our borders with Sudbury, there's a 40B project that is being constructed, and there's another 40B project on the border with Acton and Maynard. So literally on Concord's borders, we have 528 units that are scheduled to go into our community, or not into Concord's community, but right on the border. One interesting thing to note is that as we stand now, Concord's at 10.5%, so we are above the 40B threshold. But when if that dips below that, that opens the door to some to 40B projects. And does that really happen? Yes, it does. It happened in Sudbury, and that's why they have a project there. Actually, Sudbury was dipped below their 10% number, and in that time, 2 different 40B applications came in, Meadowwalk and Quarry North. And because those applications came in when the town was under the 40B application or the 40B number, they were able to go forward. So again, I'm not here to say 40B is good or 40B is bad, just here to comment on some facts that are existing in our area as it pertains to 40B. So what we're asking is to take this document that I passed out, share it with your committees. It would be great if your committees could support the articles by sharing this information with friends, family. You see on the top there are some Concord social media outlets, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Sharing information in those mediums about the article would be great. And of course, the most important thing is to be at town meeting on Tuesday, April 9th, and vote in favor of the articles. 2 of the articles, as Tom mentioned previously, have a process by which they have to be implemented. So Articles 25 and 26, if we vote yes on those articles, what that means is that the select board then goes to the state legislature and asks the state legislature to approve these articles. The state then says yes or no, and if the state says yes, it then comes back to town meeting again. So it's important to realize that voting yes on Articles 25 and 26 does not mean that they automatically get implemented. That's the beginning of a 2-step process. The other thing I would point out on Article 23, which is the free cash article, that is a temporary article. That has to be voted on every year. And the intention of that is to get the ball rolling while we're getting the other articles up and running. So Article 23 is for this year. If the select board or town meeting or whomever so decides to put it forward next year, then it has to be voted on again next year. So that's, I know that's a quick overview, but
Thank you. And last but not least,
Thank you. So I'm Tom Tarby, chair of the, was there?
Yeah,
I think you have one back in the back.
You saved the best for last time.
Well, we'll see.
you said that before I did.
I'm Bill Herring from the Board of Assessors. Christian Fisher couldn't be here. He asked me to come in. Abatement process are moving along apace with a couple more meetings. While no position has been taken on the affordable housing articles, we have discussed and expect to take a position at the next meeting. There is some concern over the transfer tax and the people moving within town, and how that and the fact that the transfer tax cannot be financed. But as I say, we have not taken a position on that. We will next meeting.
Great. I know you're busy. I've seen the list of the appeals, and you do great work. So thank you so much.
Thank you. They're all quite reasonable.
Yeah. No, but I think you handled them reasonably as well, which is not always easy.
The excitement at our committee is not as much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I just would like to comment on the transfer tax comment. Concord is not the only town in Massachusetts that is looking at that. The Cape and Islands have the transfer tax in place. So you're talking about 15 communities in the Cape, and then Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. Somerville is also aggressively and actively pursuing a transfer tax surcharge, just like what we're talking about here for Concord. So this is something that other communities have implemented, other communities are trying to implement it, and so solutions do exist to address some of the concerns that were mentioned in terms of not being financed or whatever the case may be.
Okay, I'm Tom Tarpey, the chair of the Finance Committee. We, at our last meeting, also took up the issues of Articles 23, 24, 25, and 26. We voted to move no action on Article 23. The reasoning behind it, although I think the majority of the Finance Committee feels that affordable housing is something that needs to be funded, the committee did not feel that this is the right mechanism. Specifically, the feeling was running against the use of free cash, as there is always, there's an endemic misunderstanding about the term free cash, which, if not a misnomer, is at least misleading. As we are in favor of the creation of the fund, but as far as the transfer tax in Article 25, the vote was to move affirmative action with an amendment to a 0.5% increase in the transfer tax rather than a full 1%. And this was done in recognition of the fact that the governor is currently has a motion to increase the transfer tax by 1% statewide for climate change reasons, and the committee felt that a 2% increase would be pretty daunting to the marketplace. And lastly, as regards Article 26, we voted to move affirmative action on that article. On our own article, Article 18, the committee voted last Thursday to not move the article, as we collectively feel it's not quite ready for movement and explanation to the town. We think that the goal behind Article 18, which is to inform the town as to what we feel would be prudent growth rates, and the term we use is a sustainable growth rate, over the 5 years following this year's town meeting's fiscal year, is a worthy goal and something that we should do. We haven't quite settled on the right mechanism for doing that, and that will be the topic of our future meetings. We also voted that in coming meetings, we are going to, and this is not for this year's town meeting, but in coming meetings, we are going to take a very close look at how contributions to our budget from sources other than taxes are made. And to give you specific examples, the 4 firefighters that are going to be added in West Concord are going to be funded by about 25% from taxpayer funds this year, and the other 75% will come from the Muse Emergency Stabilization Fund. I can't remember exactly what the name of that fund is. Similarly, at the special town meeting last October, we added a school resource officer, and the town was contributing a small proportion of that cost through taxes, and the remainder was going to be funded for at least 1 year by the community chest. There are other examples of this, and currently the contributions that come from sources other than taxpayer funding are not counted in our budget as regards the guideline. So only those portions that come from taxpayer funds are counted in the guideline. We think that this has a distorting effect on budgets long term, because although in these initial instances there are non-taxpayer funds being used, those funds, as they phase out, will have to be supplanted by taxpayer funding. And so the long-term effect is going to be the full cost of those budget line items which will be eventually entirely taxpayer funded. And so we want to take a close look at whether the long-time practice of not counting those donations within the guideline examination is something that the town ought to change. Lastly, as regards the middle school, this has sort of focused harsh light on the need for a comprehensive capital planning exercise in town. And this is something that we have on numerous occasions suggested to the select board. At the last select board meeting, Kate Hodges mentioned that there is, and I can't remember the exact title of it, but there is a study ongoing that was voted at the town meeting in 2017, which will look at capital needs, capital facility needs in the future. And that plan will be coming out sometime, I think in April, at least the first draft of it.
She thought in June was what I
Finish in June.
she said.
So that does still leave us in need of a more comprehensive view of how the middle school fits into the other requirements that we're facing. And those, I don't know if I can enumerate all of them, but the town is talking about a replacement for the Kais Road facility, which may have a cost of $20 million. A replacement of our safety, public safety facilities, the fire and police, which also has a sort of tag with a $20 million price tag, and renovation of this facility and other municipal offices, which will be north of $5 million. And these are all pressing needs, and really we need to come up with, the Finance Committee feels, we need to come up with a town-wide analysis and agreement of how we should proceed. What should be the magnitude, what should be the timing of these various expenses, rather than having each constituency clamor for a particular expenditure and get it, and only to find out that we've kind of painted ourselves into a fiscal corner. That's it.
So, I mean, it just begs the question then, why aren't you moving Article 18? Because that's a core component of what you're trying to put together in Article 18, and we desperately need it.
Well, the fact that we're not going to move Article 18 doesn't mean that we're not going to express an opinion about what the sustainable growth rate will be. We're just going to do it initially on our own authority and without any discussion at town meeting. And our feeling is that we will come back to town meeting in a future year and institutionalize this practice.
We're getting to the 9 o'clock hour now. I just want to say that there will not be a chair's breakfast in April because of town meeting and other activities. So this is my last chair's breakfast as chair of the select board. And I want to thank everybody for their participation and the humor and the interchange of ideas. I think the chair's breakfast has really become one of the more important kind of educational meetings that we have. And I don't know how many people watch it on MMN, but I do think all of us who are here get a great deal out of it. And I appreciate everybody's efforts in this. So thank you all very much, and we will see you at town meeting.